Today, we are going to be trying a tournament winning team that won a huge stacked online tournament with over 150 plus players and many accomplished veterans featuring many Gen 9 Pokemon and Dragonite. Let's see how we will do. A quick rundown of the team. It's a very offensive team that can abuse two strong combos utilizing ruined Pokemon abilities that lower the defenses of all other Pokemon on the field. First, we got Fluttermane and Shiyu that are really fast that can outspeed almost anything in the format while doing some strong spread damage. And then we got the Terra Normal Dragonite, which is immune to Intimidate with Inner Focus, and Priority E-Speed, which hurts a lot with Chien Pao. These are really strong combinations, really good for a late game cleanup especially. There's also Gyarados and Amoonguss to run out the team, and if you want to know more information about the team, highly recommend checking out Fede's video, which is in the description down below. Amoonguss, Palafin, Iron Hands, Tatsurugi, Dondozo, and Dragapult. Looks like a very setup-oriented team. Does have quite a few ways to set up with the Palafin option, the Tatsurugi and the Dondozo combination, the Dragapult with potential Dragon Dance. I think that I really like the Chien Pao Dragonite, but I like it more as a back combination right here. Gyarados isn't really that amazing, although breaking through Amoonguss could be really nice with the Terra, but I do really like the Shiyu and the Fluttermane option right here, because Icy Wind Dragon or Icy Wind Heat Wave is just such a combination that does really well against my opponent's team. I think especially any lead combinations with the Amoonguss. I like Chien Pao as a good cleanup option to back, and Dragonite is my last option, I think. The only concern that I do have is that maybe the Dondozo could get a little bit out of hand. And oh, I just realized that I don't have Haze on this Chien Pao. That was a different team, so maybe I should have brought a better answer to Dondozo. We'll see how it goes though. We'll see if they even lead it right here. I'm hoping maybe not, but of course Dondozo is a really interesting Pokemon to play around. We're gonna see Iron Hands and a Palafin, it looks like, so I don't know if they would have brought the Dondozo in this case. I'm thinking Dragapult and Amoonguss might be in the back here, and I think that would make a lot of sense because Dragapult is just really good, I think, to actually handle like Dragonite in general. So Fluttermane gonna come out here, boost their energies around the board and attack. Yep, attack. Okay, so does get access to Fake Out. I'm not really worried about Palafin immediately. I could just go for a really strong Overheat here, and I really do like just going for the Overheat, or I could just go for a Heat Wave. Both are pretty solid. Of course, both of these moves can miss. I could go for a Terra Ghost, but to avoid a Fake Out, but I don't really see it necessary off turn one, and I really do like the Dragonite as the last Pokemon. I'm just gonna go for a Heat Wave here and fire off a Dazzling Gleam, which is super effective damage. I don't think I have to Icy Wind for speed advantage because I do have a Choice Scarf Shiyu. We're actually just gonna see a Terra immediately, so this might be the Iron Hands right here. Is this Terra Steel for Bullet Punch? I don't remember if this thing actually gets Bullet Punch. I know Hariyama regularly does, but no, it's Terra Electric. Okay, so going for the Terra immediately. All right, and oh, we're gonna say Protect from the. Is that Palafin or is that a Tatsurugi? I'm actually I might be mistaking Pokemon right here, because that actually, yeah, actually no, that is Tatsurugi. Looking at it, I keep thinking it was Palafin because I'm used to the different color on the Pokemon. So yeah, that actually has to change my plan a bit. But smart Terra from my opponent, they are able to survive and get the close combat off into the Shiyu, which is going to get rid of its ability on the field effect. But I feel like this is a pretty good position anyway. I actually really don't mind this right now because I just get a free switch here, and Dragonite seems like a really good option here. And do I want to go for the Terra immediately is the question. I could, and I kind of like that actually. I think I'm just gonna go Dragonite. Dazzling Gleam is gonna be able to finish off the Iron Hands right here. I completely have messed a Pokemon right here, so that is definitely something that's concerning right here. But overall, doesn't seem like a bad position. Trying to think about what they have in the back. It's probably the Dragapult and the Dondozo. Unless they brought Amoonguss. I could definitely see them have brought Amoonguss here, but Dazzling Gleam just covers pretty much any switch right now. I'm just gonna go for my. Do I want to go for the Terra? Offense is pretty good positioning wise, but yeah, no, I'm actually gonna save my Terra. I'm just gonna go for the E-Speed here, and I'm just gonna go for a Dazzling Gleam. The reason I'm just gonna save my Terra is because in case I need to Terra my my Fluttermane here. We're actually gonna see. Oh, is this the swap to Dondozo? I don't think Extreme Speed gets redirected, unfortunately. Yeah, it is the Dondozo coming out, and yeah, just Shiny's kind of confusing me right here. Okay, so Commander's gonna activate, and it's going to be able to get all these boosts right here, which is a little bit difficult right here. Extreme speed is not going to work here, unfortunately. I do have to preserve something to handle the Dragapult in the back. Dragapult is the Pokemon I'm really scared of as the remaining. Dazzling Gleam is going to get some chip. Good switch on their part. I probably should have anticipated it and maybe just went for more attacks. Leftovers? Yeah, that's leftovers. Okay. Which does make sense. This Pokemon's actually a little bit hard to break through right now for my current situation. I do kind of want to just go for the Terra immediately with Dragonite. So I think I am going to go for the normal Terra because Tatsurugi does get a dragon move right here. And I think I just want to protect here and see what they decide to go for. They could click Earthquake, which is definitely a potential option. But since I didn't go for the Terra yet, they might just go for the either the Order Up or just go for the KO into the Flutter Mane, because Flutter Mane's actually kind of a threat to them. They don't have the best ways of handling the Flutter Mane immediately, especially if it is that Dragapult that's the last Pokemon. So we will protect our Flutter Mane right here, and we're going to see what come out from this after the extreme speed, which hopefully should does some decent damage. Actually is pretty good damage even after +2. Does go for the liquidation into the Flutter Mane. Perfect. Okay. So that is really good. The only problem is I got to make sure that I don't... do I want to preserve... I feel like I always want to preserve the Flutter Mane. The main reason is I'm a little bit worried about extreme speed power points, which is actually a little bit of a concern right here. So I could switch out. The only problem is that does weaken my Chien Pao. It does... But I think that's okay in the long run, actually. Yeah, that is probably okay in the long run. Because I get the defense drop on this. I still have Sucker Punch as a threat for the Dragapult in the back, assuming I preserve the Chien Pao. And I could still have the ability to switch out my Dragonite, which I think is actually a really important endgame factor, because it doesn't mean I have to rely on Chien Pao to actually KO the Dragonite or the Dragapult. So we're going to see Liquidation come out of Chien Pao, and I also have Sucker Punch, or... I actually don't remember how fast Dondozo is naturally. I think it's like base 35, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to extreme speed and Sucker Punch, though. It just seems like the best option here. Oh, I did have Haze. I do have Haze. For some reason, I thought I didn't have Haze. I could have went for the Haze, but... Okay, that's completely fine. I'm just going to go for the Sucker Punch plus extreme speed. Should be able to pick up the knockout, I imagine, with these decrease in his defense thanks to the ability. I don't think Tatsurugi gets to attack here, if I'm not mistaken. We are able to KO the Dondozo, though. So that is eliminated. It's so big for the camera, even. And, alright, yeah, they don't get to attack here. Let's see their remaining right here, which is going to be pretty important. It's going to be the... Okay, it's going to be the Iron Hands coming out, which is very interesting. But, yeah, I'm completely okay with the situation at this point. I am going to go for the E-Speed into the Iron Hand slot, and I think I go hard in the Flutter Mane here because I don't imagine Tatsurugi be able to pick up a knockout into the Flutter Mane. Might as well save the Sucker Punch option in the back, and we'll find out what they decide to bring out as their last Mon coming out. Fake Out going to come out, but Inner Focus is a thing right here, and that is going to be able to knock out the Iron Hands, which is going to see a 2v2 position. I'm a little bit worried, depending on the Dragapult's item, I guess, but let's see what the Tatsurugi will do. I actually don't know what moveset really is. Muddy Water going to come out, not really doing too much damage though. That accuracy drop is actually kind of frustrating though. We'll see what the last Pokemon is. It is going to be, I don't think that's a Moongus. Yeah, it's Dragapult. Okay, yeah, had a feeling. This is... Oh, that accuracy drop is actually kind of annoying for my late game scenario. I wonder if this is a special variant or a physical variant, because if it's physical, it can't break through my Flutter Mane immediately, especially my opponent did use Terra immediately, so I don't think you actually have a move that can actually handle Flutter Mane immediately, unless you have Shadow Ball, which I think is okay in the long term, but just to be safe, I think protecting the Flutter Mane is completely acceptable. If the Dragonite goes down, it's completely okay. I just bring in my Chien Pao, I threaten Sucker Punch into Dazzling Gleam afterward, and I feel like I should win. Well, let's see. Extreme Speed is able to just knock out the Tatsurugi, which is really nice. And we're going to see the Dragapult go for the Shadow Ball. Yep, it is Shadow Ball, so it's special. Okay. So they have to go for the Flutter Mane unless they want to go for the accuracy drop, which I think is very fair as well. I'm going hard in my Chien Pao to reset my move on Dragonite, and so I can actually go for Dragon Claw. And then I'm just going to go for, it doesn't matter if I go for Shadow Ball or a Dazzling Gleam at this point. So I am going to go for Shadow Ball, I guess. It doesn't really matter as they're the same base power. So we bring in the Chien Pao. I guess if this is Focus Sash on Dragapult or if it has Sucker Punch, but even then I should still be winning the game, I'm pretty sure. Shadow Ball, let's see. Flutter Mane has good special defense. It actually survives. Yeah, it does have really good special defense. Shadow Ball able to come out in Dragapult. That's definitely not specs on the Dragapult. Focus Sash, it looks like it's going to be the case. Yeah, it is Focus Sash. Okay, so that was the Focus Sash mod on this team, which, okay, yeah. Feeling pretty good about our position. We can just click Sucker Punch and we can click a Shadow Ball, and let's see. They could Sucker Punch here, but I don't think Focus Sash, Shadow Ball, Dragapult would really run it. So I am able to secure a very solid victory right there. Ooh, okay, so yeah, Chien Pao was actually really good. Haze was a really good option that I could have went for, and I did really want to preserve though because I felt it was just so strong against the Dragapult endgame. And yeah, sorry about the beginning where I mistook the Tatsurugi for Palafin, but overall, like, I was able to break through the Dondozo. That's a little bit of the weakness. A 2v1 situation into the Dondozo isn't exactly favorable, especially when you're able to correctly predict the targets right there. Felt like I was able to position damage wise really strong and keep a really solid end game for the Dragapult that I was concerned about, and I was exactly right on the money right there and able to secure the game with just really good targeting overall and knowing what I had to preserve, and keeping my Flutter Mane around, which was a huge threat to their team, was very crucial. Iron Valiant, Ceruledge, Gyarados, the Great Tusk, I believe. I don't know if that's the past or future. The spread's a little bit small. I'm pretty sure that's Great Tusk, Grimmsnarl, and Amoonguss. Overall, this seems like a pretty strong combination, I think, for Shiyu Flutter Mane again. Like, it's just a really strong combination against most of my opponents right here because how fast these Pokemon are, how threatening they are. Like, damage-wise, I threaten so much against my opponent right here. So just really like that combination. I don't know if I really like the Dragonite. It's useful with the extreme speed because it can bypass Grimmsnarl. It just picks up the knockout, for instance. I can threaten a lot to... I can bypass Rage Powder, threaten the Gyarados. It's a really good revenge KO'er, but I do want to lead Flutter Mane plus Shiyu. It's a really strong combination, I think, against my opponent's team. Then in the back, I like Chien Pao just because it is able to do quite a bit with the Ice Spinner. In back Pokemon, I guess I kind of want to try out Gyarados this time. Having an Intimidate is not a bad option against Gyarados, and the Iron Tusk I also like as a defensive option. It's also like the flying one just is able to hit the Ceruledge for Waterfall, super effective, unless it's like Terra Ghost, which is definitely possible. It might be their Dragonite answer, so something that I would have to be aware of. I think Gyarados is a pretty solid option. I just got to watch out for their own Gyarados. That Pokemon could get a little bit out of hand if I am not careful. We're going to see Grimmsnarl plus the Ceruledge right here. All right. So not a bad combination right here because Air Balloon on the... Air Balloon on the Ceruledge. Interesting. Dark Pulse should just KO, I'm pretty sure. I do have to watch out for Grimmsnarl, but they also have to... So this is a little bit of a weird interaction. My Flutter Mane is threatening the Grimmsnarl. The Grimmsnarl threatens Thunder Wave. There's Shadow Sneak potentially from the Ceruledge, which I don't know if it picks up the knockout Flutter Mane, but it's definitely an option. They might just decide to target Shiyu since it's pretty threatening to the Ceruledge right now. So there's a lot of different potentials right here. I think right now I want to just try to go for a Dark Pulse immediately and protect Flutter Mane. I want to scout for a protect on the Ceruledge, for instance, which I think is a pretty big one. But it looks like it's just Parting Shot into the Flutter Mane, so that actually works out perfectly. So they're not able to reposition. It's not like Light Screen where now the Ceruledge might be able to survive this, as Dark Pulse is just able to obliterate the Ceruledge. So perfect turn one right there. I could have just got some Dazzling Gleam chip, but I think overall it's okay because the Grimmsnarl is not threatening a fake out or anything. My opponent gets a free switch. Gyarados could come in, which is a little bit concerning. Yet I think I have fine options out. We're actually going to see the booster energy on the Iron Valiant right here. Special attack. Okay, so it's a special variant. That's good to know. Which means I can go for a Dazzling Gleam pretty safely. I could also go for the Icy Wind. I don't think I really need speed against it. Dark Pulse is like quad resisted, so not really worth it right here. I think I just go for an I want to go for an Icy Wind or a Dazzling Gleam. I think Icy Wind is probably decent enough for speed control, except I don't. This could be Trick Room, I guess, Iron Valiant, so that could actually be a way worse option. I think I'm just going to go for the Dazzling Gleam, and I kind of just want to stay in and Dark Pulse the Grimmsnarl slot. I could go to Gyarados, but the thing is, if Grimmsnarl makes a Punish Shot play, I can punish whatever's switching in. And yeah, they don't exactly have the best switch to Dark Pulse, so I'm going to try it out. We're going to see a Terra right here, which makes a lot of sense from Iron Valiant. What type are you is the question. That's Electric? Okay, was not expecting Electric. I'm not too familiar with the sets. I know this thing can run physical or special. A Party Shot is going to come out into the Flutter Mane. The reason I want to keep a Shiyu on the field is because its ability is still in effect, so I still do more damage, I guess, overall to my opponent with Dazzling Gleam. But I guess Gyarados is a lot more threatened now, which is a very big concern. Let's see what the... oh, Moongus coming in. Okay, so it would have been better to switch out to Shiyu, looks like. All right, Dazzling Gleam going to come out here. Still does some pretty good damage because of the ability on Shiyu. And Dark Pulse, so much damage right there. But Aura Spirit is going to come out into the Shiyu and unfortunately pick up the knockout for me. So, all right, a little bit concerning, but I do have Focus Sash on the Chien Pao, and that should actually be pretty safe. I want to say there's a few factors that can make this a little bit ugly. I am going to go out into this Chien Pao right here. I am -1 on the Flutter Mane, so I don't think I pick up the knockout into the Amoonguss, and if Amoonguss protects, it's a little bit awkward. I do want to go for a Icy Wind for the speed advantage, I believe, and I want to go for Ice Spinner, I believe. Ice Spinner is not a bad option here. But the question is into who, because Amoonguss, again, could protect. But if my opponent reads and goes for the Iron Valiant, protect, and the Spore, it's really, really bad. So I think it's okay to go for the Iron Valiant, though. Let's see. I feel Amoonguss might have the option to protect. It's a protect, though, from the Iron Valiant. So good play on my opponent's part. Oh, double protect. Okay, just for Leftovers recovery. That actually works out even better for me. Okay. I'll gladly take that. It's much easier to handle than... okay, that's much easier to handle. Okay, so I'm going to go for... I think I'm just going to go for the Ice Spinner into the Iron Valiant again, because I might as well, right? Because the problem right now is even if Amoonguss gets the Spore, their biggest offensive damage output, which is the Iron Valiant, goes down. Like, Iron Valiant's the only Pokemon that actually does significant damage as the last one. If I get rid of Iron Valiant, the Gyarados just wins, I'm pretty sure. So I think I just always target here. And yeah, they're forced to Rage Powder to avoid Iron Valiant getting knocked out anyway. So I think this just becomes a way stronger position with the Icy Wind coming out, lowering that speed into the Iron Valiant. Dazzling Gleam looks like might KO afterward. Not exactly too sure, as Ice Spinner is going to eliminate the Amoonguss, and now it's Grimmsnarl and Iron Valiant versus my Gyarados in the back, and whatever is going to remain after the turn, the Flutter Mane survives. Or Spirit going to come out in a Chien Pao, but it is able to survive, which is perfect. All right. With that Focus Sash, it's really going to come down to the end game of Gyarados and the Flutter Mane right here, the Grimmsnarl coming out right here. Now, there are a few options my opponent does have. Protect the Iron Valiant. Grimmsnarl can attack right here. I think I just go for a Dazzling Gleam right here. And I could go for a Terra here. A Terra isn't a bad option. Terra? Ooh, Terra Fairy isn't a bad option right here. I actually really like the Terra Fairy because I guarantee the KO on Iron Valiant, or I just get more damage into Grimmsnarl, which I think is better. And then I'm going to go for the Ice Spinner. I think I'm going to tar down the Grimmsnarl in case to protect, because I'm thinking like you're not going to fake out my Flutter Mane slot. It's just really unlikely as a ghost type. I can just click Dazzling Gleam. The Dazzling Gleam might even just have KO naturally, but this is just to ensure in case of some weird damage rolls. You're probably, if you have a priority move, you're probably going to go for the fake out into my Chien Pao. And yeah, we are going to see protect from Iron Valiant, which ends up working out perfectly because I think Grimmsnarl probably wants to try and do something right here, and probably is like a Spirit Break into the... I'd imagine it's a Spirit Break into one of my slots, so perfect. And then trying to follow up with maybe a Sucker Punch afterwards. So Dazzling Gleam into the Grimmsnarl, more damage, and the Ice Spinner specifically into the Grimmsnarl will pick up the knockout. and able to secure that victory. A little bit close. That Iron Valiant could have been scary. Electric's just an interesting type. I've never seen it before. I don't know if it's because it gets electric coverage or if it's for the defensive option because it's only weak to ground otherwise. However, felt I was able to really put on the pressure. I think the Dark Pulse into the Icy Wind was really strong. I think the turn 1 was also really great. I was able to get a pretty significant knockout immediately and then able to catch on to how my opponent was really playing with the protects, which is something like it wasn't even necessary. Like I could have probably targeted the Iron Valiant, but depending on what the Grimmsnarl did, it could have been a little bit trickier. I also really like the Terra Fairy on the Flutter Mane just because of the fact it made myself resisted to the Sucker Punch potential from the Grimmsnarl, which I think is still pretty nice because it doesn't mean like Spirit Break and the Sucker Punch does pick up the knockout Flutter Mane, and again threatening the extra damage onto the Iron Valiant just to secure the knockout. Even if like they went for a Spirit Break and the Flutter Mane, I might have still been able to pick up the knockout, unless they went for like a parting shot into a Spirit Break into a parting shot on the turn I would have went for. But then again, leaving Chien Pao alone just for me to KO the Iron Valiant would have secured it anyway. So I felt like I just was able to play that end game towards a way I just always win. Grimmsnarl, Corviknight, Meowscarda, Dragonite, Dragapult, Arcanine. Very interesting team. I do have quite a few options. I'm a little bit worried. I think Shiyu is really good against my opponent's team. It does hit a lot of my opponent's mons super effectively, and that is a Pokemon I absolutely want to bring here. I really do like the Chien Pao. It's also pretty good against my opponent's team. The Dragonite is also a really strong option right here with the E-Speed, although Corviknight and the Dragapult aren't exactly the friendliest, but I do have the Flutter Mane and the Shiyu. But Gyarados, I think, is probably one of the weakest ones, with Inner Focus Dragonite being a very strong option. The Meowscarda, guaranteed crit move, and Gyarados just doesn't really help out here, unfortunately, and I don't think a Moongus is going to help out either. So let's go with the Shiyu, and I kind of want to go with like Shiyu, maybe Chien Pao. And the reason I want to go for the combination is a little bit different here, is because I really feel that the damage output that I have is pretty significant, as well as it just covers a lot of the weaknesses that Shiyu has to offer. I don't want to activate my booster energy yet right away. And I think Dragonite's just really good as an endgame. I don't want to lead Dragonite into like Pokemon with Corviknight and Dragapult, where the normal Terra is really not going to come into play. So we'll just see what my opponent's options are. It's why I like Shiyu as an option, and then like the Pokemon that Shiyu doesn't want to handle immediately, I really feel like that my Chien Pao handles pretty well. So let's see what my opponent decides to go with. Grimmsnarl and Meowscarda. Oh, Dragonite would have been a really good lead here, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. Okay, as I do lead Shiyu plus Chien Pao. Meowscarda, can't remember if it's faster or not, but I really do feel Heat Wave is just a really strong option immediately into... I kind of want to just go for the KO into Grimmsnarl. I'm not really that concerned about the Meowscarda realistically. It just doesn't do too much, I feel, to me, as it can get a KO maybe with a combination with Grimmsnarl, but it has to be a double up. We'll see if Fake Out comes out, but that's okay. A Fake Out into Shiyu, which is completely fine. Let's see, what's his speed? The Chien Pao is still faster. I get the damage in a Grimmsnarl, which pretty good damage. I think it puts in Heat Wave range, and Flower Trick going to come out into the Chien Pao, which doesn't even bring me to my Focus Sash. So I'm in a really safe spot here. I'm pretty sure Heat Wave is very, very safe here. And since we saw the speed, I am going to go for a Sucker Punch into the Meowscarda in case it's a Focus Sash variant. Heat Wave should just threaten, and I avoid a potential... I don't think Sucker Punch would actually KO the Chien Pao. I could switch out, but I don't really want anything in the back to get like Thunder Wave or anything, so might as well just go for the Sucker Punch right here. And let's see, Light Screen gonna come out. Okay, it wasn't Protean, I believe, on the Meowscarda, so I should just be able to hit a Heat Wave and pick up the knockout in the Meowscarda. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. I could have picked up the knockout on Grimmsnarl, looks like. However, really Grimmsnarl is not doing too much that I'm really concerned about at the moment, so I think this is an okay position. Dragonite could come in, which I guess could be a little bit scary. Arcanine gonna come in. All right, so Arcanine coming in. Intimidate reveal. Yep, Intimidate. Okay, so it's not like a random Flash Fire, which is pretty strong here. Wonder if they go for E-Speed here. I could go into Flutter Mane, but there's not really a reason to risk it. Do I need Chien Pao for anything is the question. Not really. Sucker Punch is good for Dragapult, but with Booster Energy on my Flutter Mane still intact, I feel I'm in a pretty safe spot regardless. So I'm actually just going to go for a Heat Wave here And I'm just gonna go for a, I guess, a Sucker Punch into the Arcanine just for chip. I might as well. They go for extreme speed, which makes sense. So I do lose Chien Pao. No surprise there, but I am still in a really strong spot. Let's see if they have Reflect 2 on the Grimmsnarl. They do have Reflect. Okay. But they didn't have like Sucker Punch, it looks like. All right. Probably Spirit Break as the last move. Heatwave going to come out, pick up the knock on Grimmsnarl, so I'm in a 3-2 advantage. However, my opponent does have screens, and it probably is likely Grimmsnarl, I'd imagine. However, let's see. That could be a little bit concerning, I guess, for Fluttermane. I do kind of want to go Dragonite immediately. I want to see what their last Pokemon is, and I don't want to waste a booster energy if I'm playing defensive with my... Okay, they bring out their own Dragonite. This is where it can get a little bit terrifying. That Dragonite is actually a pretty big threat. However, with Fluttermane in the back, as long as I preserve it, I'm still in a really strong position for this endgame. I'm just going to fire off a Heat Wave, and I'm going to Terra my... Yeah, I'm going to Terra my Dragonite to be safe, and I'm just going to go for an E-Speed. I'm going to target the Arcanine, because Arcanine is probably the biggest concern for me, as Fluttermane should be able to beat the Dragonite, unless it's Terra Steel, but if they're Terraing now, I'd imagine it's normal, right? Yeah, it looks like normal. All right, that's confirmed. All right. So that's perfect. I'm able to get extreme speed into a dazzling or heat wave and then try to put these in dazzling gleam. But this is choice band of Dragonite, which has been one of the more standards. I should be able to 1v1 it with Fluttermane. The only concern is, of course, if it isn't, could be a pretty big concern if it actually has ways to handle my Fluttermane, because I don't think I'm going to actually be able to do damage to the Dragonite, at least immediately. Extreme speed going to come out here. Okay. Into the Dragonite, which doesn't do that much damage, so I want to say that's not banded, but we'll find out. I am able to go for an extreme speed here into the Arcanine right here, hopefully pick up that knockout. It looks like I'm gonna miss it. Barry is gonna activate. Okay, I think I keep Dragonite alive. They have to E-speed that slot, which is okay. Heat Wave does some pretty good damage to the Dragonite right there. All right, let's go for the Heat Wave here, and I think I'm going to risk the Fluttermane right here. I don't want to lose both my Pokemon here, which I don't think it's possible. Unless Arcanine's E-Speed did KO the Dragonite and I misread the calc, but I'm pretty sure it did like 50 and I'm at 60. The Heat Wave here is just pretty safe. Fluttermane, I think, is just such a safe option because they're probably just going to go for E-Speed regardless here anyway. And then Fluttermane should be able to get a Dazzling Gleam off. If she gets the Heat Wave off, Dazzling Gleam will finish off the Dragonite, and I think that will secure the win for me. But of course, if they read this could be very, very scary right here. Let's see if that's going to be the case, though. I have the booster energy. Shouldn't really matter too much since I should just outspeed these Pokemon naturally. However, who knows? Maybe it could be a Dragonite. We do see the extreme speed perfect, and then extreme speed into my other slot. Yeah, okay. Which, oh, they doubled up the Dragonite because they knew I was choice banded based on the damage. But with that Fluttermane switch, I'm able to get a really safe position with the Heat Wave, and now I think this is over, assuming I just... Dazzling Gleam should KO. I guess Dragonite has Protect because I don't think it's banded based on the damage. I should win the game as long as I had Heat Wave, and they're not even going to go for a Heat Wave dodge and maybe like a live a Dazzling Gleam. I am able to secure the win. A really, really close game. That actually, I was a little bit scared because that Dragonite under screens was actually very difficult if it was Dragonite. If it was choice banded, I don't think it is based on the damage. But if it was choice banded, a little bit scary. But again, as I said before, I do think that Fluttermane is an absolutely absurd Pokemon, and the ability to just switch in right there and at the perfect moment absorb the extreme speeds, I felt was absolutely perfect. If they went for the extreme speed into Shiyu, again, could have been a different story. I could have still won the game, but a lot more difficult. And yeah, thankfully it was, but they did have to just worry about like an extreme speed pick up a KO there, which probably was their main concern. And Fluttermane in the back, as I said before, really nice because endgame Dragonite is super scary as we've seen, and just being able to be immune to that extreme speed win con is very solid. Amoonguss, Iron Hands, Arcanine, Goldengo, Fluttermane, and Roaring Moon, I believe. So this is a little bit strange. I think the combination of Dragonite isn't that great here. Dragonite is just not that great because, of course, two ghost types, which are pretty good against the Dragonite, is not really a solid option here, although it's pretty good against like everything else. Fluttermane going to be really important. Dazzling Gleam is just such a good combination. I don't think they're leading the Roaring Moon though, because against that Fluttermane, I don't think you lead it. I think I want to go with something like Shiyu plus maybe the Gyarados or the Chien Pao immediately, which I don't mind. It's a pretty strong option, just damage-wise. But I really do think that maybe it's just a Gyarados lead here for the Intimidate, and then have Chien Pao and Fluttermane in the back. I don't think Amoonguss is that great against my opponent's team. Goldango's immune to Spore because of its ability. I don't really like it against opposing Amoonguss. I would just like some good offensive Pokemon. Dragonite could have maybe put in some work if I Terra it, because Terra normal, of course, against Ghost is pretty solid just as a defensive option, but I just couldn't really deal damage, which is my main concern here. We're going to see the... All right, this is actually a really solid lead for me, as I do lead the Gyarados plus the Shiyu against the passive Arcanine Amoonguss, and this is a fantastic option for me right here, because I am able to threaten the Amoonguss and the Arcanine with super effective attacks immediately. Now, Amoonguss does commonly run Aqua Berry, which is one of my biggest concerns. However, I just don't see a reason not to just draw off a Heat Wave and get some pretty solid damage. And then I kind of want to go for the Dragon Dance immediately, because it does allow me to outspeed a lot of my opponent's team. And I feel like it's a really solid option here, so I am going to go for Dragon Dance. As Heat Wave, Aqua Berry? I just missed the Amoonguss, so that's unfortunate. All right. Did they Will-O-Wisp and Spore? They did Will-O-Wisp. Okay. I didn't want to go for a Waterfall and just do no damage, so having a Dragon Dance option or boost would have been really nice. But that's only really if I got the damage into Amoonguss, so I could have, you know, maybe picked up the KO the following turn. That is unfortunate, because I'm probably going to get put to sleep here, unfortunately. Yeah, it is going to be a Spore here into the Shiyu. And what was an amazing position turn one kind of turned a little bit bad, but of course that is how the accuracy goes sometimes. At least on the bright side, they're not threatening offensive pressure unless the Arcanine had Wall Charge, but with a defensive Will-O-Wisp option, I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm going to just burn this turn of sleep, and I'm going to go for the Dragon Dance with Gyarados once again. There's really not much that my opponent could do. I guess they could go for a Clear Smog, but of course a Waterfall into the Arcanine is still pretty threatening, so I don't know if that'd be the case. We're actually going to see a swap here from the Amoonguss into the Roaring Moon, potentially? No, into Iron Hands. Okay, that makes sense. And we're gonna stay asleep with the Shiyu. What's the Arcanine going for? Just an attack here? I would have liked to get a Waterfall off, but I didn't think my opponent would let me. I thought they would probably switch out the Arcanine slot and maybe like Clear Smog or a different option. Snarl gonna come out. Okay. That's gonna lower the damage output on Shiyu, which is completely alright here. I think I'm just gonna go for... The problem is if I lose Shiyu, I mean, I guess I could still beat the Amoonguss. I do have the Ice Spinner and Chien Pao. But yeah, that's a little bit annoying. I just wasn't able to get any damage at all, and I had to waste turns. However, I think it's okay just to go for... I don't want them to read a Protect from Gyarados. I kind of just want to go for a Waterfall, and I kind of want to target down the Iron Hands in case they... Actually, no, I'd rather just Waterfall to Arcanine. They might Protect here, but they could have also switched to a Moon. But then again, with Heat Wave from Shiyu as a threatening, I think it's okay. And I am able to at least eliminate the Arcanine, which is pretty good for my Fluttermane in the back. Dazzling Gleam endgame's a bit stronger now, but I do take the next turn of sleep. Thunder Punch going to come out of Gyarados. But Gyarados really was there just for the Arcanine mainly. So I think this is still a pretty solid position at the end of the day. I'll take it. I think Chien Pao is probably my best option. I want to save the Fluttermane in the back just in case. We're going to see Amoonguss come in, which makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's exactly why I want to go out into my Chien Pao here and threaten that Amoonguss right here with the Heat Wave and the Ice Spinner combination right here. So yeah, now I can just threaten the heavy damage. I don't know if Amoonguss is going to Protect though, so that's the biggest concern right here. I am going to go for the Ice Spin. I just don't know into who. I want to say I do target down the Amoonguss just in case Shiyu stays asleep, and hopefully I just get the Heat Wave damage off, because that's what I really need. But getting rid of Amoonguss does help secure the victory right here for potentially my Fluttermane. And it looks like they are going to just go for the Rage Powder, but thankfully they didn't go for the Spore attempt, because I don't know if the Ice Spinner actually KOs. It is super effective in the defense decrease, but Focus Sash looks like... No, Rocky Helmet. Oh, so that's why they went for it. Drain Punch going to come out. Okay. But overall, that's not a bad position for me at all. That really isn't a bad position for me. Fluttermane. The Rocky Helmet kind of stinks because the Focus Sash is broken on the Chien Pao, which is actually a pretty big concern. Does my opponent have anything specific? They didn't have a Dragonite. They had the Roaring Moon, so I could Terra this. And if I Terra this, it's not a bad option. And I think it is Yeah, it is my best option here to go for the Dazzling Gleam here and go for the, I think it's just go for the Ice Spinner here into the Iron Hands right here. But let's see, this is a pretty close one. Dazzling Gleam is going to pick up the KO with Flutter Mane into the Amoonguss, unless it protects or swaps, which is fine. I either get a lot of damage or KO here, or like I just get to double up anyway into the Iron Hands. Iron Hands might go for the Terra here, which is my big concern, but it looks like not. Okay, so they do go for Rage Powder once again. I am able to get the KO into the Amoonguss, and I think with this Terra, because it is super effective, because it is a fighting type mod. Oh boy, that's close. I actually don't know. That looks like a Assault Vest. All right. The Amoonguss is going to go down right there. Let's see if Ice Spinner is able to finish off the job, which this thing is pretty bulky, so yeah, not enough. All right, they do go for a Drain Punch into Chien Pao, which is going to pick up a knockout, and I think the only way I win this, unfortunately, is going to be a... I don't think I win unless for some reason the Roaring Moon's in the back and this thing is Terra fighting on the Iron Hands right here. We're going to see the Goldango actually come out, so... yeah, I need like KOs. All right. So Shadow Ball is probably the best option into the... I mean, I think I'm losing anyway. Although, maybe if I get a Shadow Ball crit. But if they're Terra Steel, they secure the game with Goldango. Let's see. They do Terra here. It's one of the two for sure. It's either the... okay, yeah, it's Terra Steel or Goldango. All right. Which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it is Terra Steel. Gets rid of the Ghost Weakness, so I can't even go for the Shadow Ball crit endgame, unfortunately, and that will set it up right there. But man, that Heat Wave miss was pretty bad into the Moon, as you saw. Like, even with Regenerator, like, I would have still been able to get a lot. Terra Blast. That's an interesting option, considering you get pretty good steel moves anyway, especially your signature steel move. I think it's Make It Rain, but yeah, unfortunately... I did miss the Heat Wave and took multiple turns of sleep. And did I take 3? I actually don't recall if I took 3. I want to say it was either 2 or 3. I think it might have been 3. But yeah, not getting the Heat Wave damage on the Moon, which was actually pretty significant, as you saw earlier, would have meant that the Moon would have went down earlier. And that would have maybe allowed me to avoid the Rocky Helmet damage, or I would have just been able to get the damage into... or I just would have been able to get some solid damage overall, which... and if the 3 turns of sleep, of course, did deny me the Iron Hands Heat Wave, and that would have allowed my Ice Spinner plus the combination of Dazzling Gleam to actually pick up the knockout, which would have actually been pretty significant, because then afterward I could have went for maybe like Sacred Sword combination into a Shadow Ball into the Goldango to cover, and I would have still had Chien Pao alive. But that is how it goes sometimes. But I do feel like I had a pretty strong lead. It didn't exactly work out as well as I would have hoped. I was able to get rid of Arcanine at least, but with the Heat Wave miss and the multiple turns of sleep, it just was really difficult, because I needed to break through Amoonguss. I needed to get some chip damage, because that Iron Hands was a really bulky, taking that Terra Dazzling Gleam really well, only 50%. In conclusion, the team was really fun, as the room Pokemon are really absurd right now, and with many strong combinations. If you want to try it out, use the rental code on the screen while it's available. Go check out Fede's video down below and subscribe to the channel for more competitive VGC content.